Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I'm wondering what your favorite pocket pry bar is and why. I think it all started with this. This is when Mac Tools released a pocket pry bar. Number on this is the PN2C and G for the green handle, although it's kind of more a limey avocado. But anyway, this took the bent-tipped pocket screwdriver to the next level. And obviously we all used pocket screwdrivers for all kinds of prying tasks. Why not dedicate it with some square stock and then machine an actual pry head into it instead of just a bent tip on a regular screwdriver. Now, Snap-on, I knew would come out with one, but I got tired of waiting, so I went ahead and made my own out of one of their square stock slotted screwdrivers. Got the old handle here, drilled it out for a magnet. And this is a great size. It's nice. At first I thought it was too big, but it's actually not the biggest of the pocket pry bars that are available now. Then Snap-on came out with theirs. They used round stock, and it looked like they just took a screwdriver head and bent it. In fact, they come out with there's a straight version and a bent tip version, and as far as I can tell, looks like a screwdriver. It's nice and symmetrical. If I compare this to the traditional Snap-on slotted screwdrivers and about the same form factor there, about the same size, you can see that it's not terribly different. And in fact, there's a little bow on this in the traditional kind of screwdriver space. I've got the little shape there, traditional thicker material, but you can see this is just a wedge. But if you're a screw head, I'm not sure it makes a big difference. And it does look like the pry bar is a little bit finer on the tip. But anyway, then Lyall came out with some. Lyall first dropped this, which was very similar to the Mac. And it turns out both these are made in Taiwan. And Lyall put a little magnet on the end of theirs. These pocket clips, they're straight out of, cheap ballpoint pens. And then it became a highly controversial issue on the internet as to whether you should align the tip sideways or perpendicular to the pocket clip, or in this case line it up with the pocket clip. Now this obviously slide it down into a pocket. If this part's on the inside of the pocket, this is on the outside, then this is going to be pushing on the fabric, whereas if you do it this way, it's going to be sideways. I think the dust has settled on that, and nobody seems to care anymore too much, because a lot of us aren't carrying these in our pockets that way, or we're just breaking these things off, or they break off during use. But anyway, then Lyall came out with another one that's really kind of a neat design. It's a striking pocket pry bar. So they've gone up to a much thicker bar stock there. I mean, this is getting into actual size of the full Snap-on pry bars here. This is the smallest 8-inch one of their regular set, but they put a striking cap on it so you can really take this next level, and of course that is machined more as a pry bar. Now, Mayhew came out with one that sort of took that Mac size, little bit bigger stock it looks like, but then stretched it way out and put a much healthier, hardier bend on that. I mean, that's pretty extreme if you think about that angle. So it allowed us to dig around with some different prying than maybe what we're used to. In fact, I would call this more of a pick. It's a pick you can pry with, a prying pick. And it would be cool if they came out with a striking prying pick. So if you want a new tool idea that's going to sell like hotcakes, make the SPP, or the striking prying pick. So you can do everything with it. And then Tecton came out with one, by the way, Mayhew USA, Tecton USA. They came out with, again, the real heavy round stock. So this was taking kind of the square stock of the Lyall, making it round, and then machining that head. You can tell, it's asymmetrical. They flattened this side to make it more of a pry bar. A little steep rise there, so it'd split wood well, but wouldn't necessarily slide very far under something. And they've got a really beefy, hard handle. They came out with a couple of flavors of this as far as the angle here, but not colors. And then, of course, I have used this thing for everything. Absolutely love these little 8-inch ones. Have, you know, scrapers this size as well, but this has just never ever let me down. And the idea of having maybe that kind of power just in a small form factor, just next level. But the dust has settled on these guys, and there are no, I guess here's the other Tecton. I can show you that. Tecton, excellent. You're paying a lot for, in terms of real estate, for these giant handles compared to the others. I mean, they are by far the biggest handle. In fact, if you compare them here, they're not that much smaller than the full-size picks. But anyway, so now that the dust has settled on these things, I'm wondering, what are people using mostly right now? You know, there are variations by other companies, but is it the small ones, the bent ones? I mean, this is a go-to for me, but I actually still like this one. I mean, obviously there's some nostalgia there, but it's just a good size. These were designed to fit in your pocket. They're designed, you know, basically to leverage the screwdrivers that already existed. So there's that. But when you're talking about a pry bar and pushing, really, you know, trying to get something that you know, to move, there are a few things to take into consideration. One of them, now this little Wego here is not a pry bar. This is a special electronics tool. But what it taught me is that round handles don't work, because you're often at a leverage point with the prying end, and you may not be able to push straight down. You know, you can try, but anything that has, you know, the ability to you know, be smooth on all sides means that you can grab it easily on all sides, which means your hands can slip around. Most of them, I think, with that square, you need to index it, definitely. Make sure that it is lined up, that everything is in line with that. No problems, usually. Lyall's handles seem a little small and a little harsh, you know, as far as the hard plastic. The Tectons are as well, but there's something about the texturing that they did. Mayhews are probably the slipperiest. I guess I could put some Teflon on it, maybe Teflon spray to get a little better grip. But overall, there's just something about the snap-on. I'm not thrilled with the clips. I pulled them off some, but anyway, that's just a good solid size. There's still room to innovate in this space, though. I think because these are now just everywhere, we're all used to it. It's a professional tool. You don't have to worry about, you know, people taking it or not taking it seriously anymore. So you could put some money into some R&D, into some designs, because we're ready for that. It doesn't have to be an inexpensive, you know, kind of also ran screwdriver bent tip thing. Instead, now we could really go after, you know, a high-tech pocket pry bar. Not sure what all that would be yet, though, but I know there's plenty of room here, and now that we're used to them and take them serious, I think it's worth a company's effort to explore this space, especially with the gusto that they do with other lines. Snap-on is doing it on their big side, their larger tools. So I think they ought to flip the switch and start working on some small ones. What else could we do? You know, if we took it serious and made, you know, little teeny weeny ones. You know, obviously people are like, what do you use it for? You use it for every time you grab a little screwdriver and start prying on something. Or maybe a combination screwdriver pry bar. You know, why does it have to be a Phillips on the other end? You could just maybe flip it and have a prying end. I don't know, the more I think about it, there's just a lot of untapped possibilities. But I think the starting point's with the first question I asked, and that's, what's your favorite pocket pry bar and why? And with that, Doc out.